Right, okay. Oh, it's a new system, right, okay. Welcome everybody to the Traffic and Transportation Decision Meeting. I'm Councillor Lynn Stagg, Cabinet Member for Traffic and Transportation. Some housekeeping information before we carry on. If the continuous fire alarm sounds, and we're not expecting it to, please evacuate the room and public gallery by the stairwells. Do not attempt to use the lifts. Please assemble at Queen Victoria's statue in front of the civic offices. In order to comply with the Portsmouth Cultural Trust Fire Marshal regulations, anyone who signed in at the Guildhall reception desk, would that have happened with us? Oh, it would have done, okay. Should remember to sign up when leaving the building after today's meeting, otherwise we'll be looking for you if there's a fire. May I draw everyone's attention to the fact that this meeting will be live streamed from a camera at a fixed location at the back of the meeting room, and the recording will be on the Council's website. The camera will mainly capture the backs of anyone making deputations, but there will be some footage of them as they approach and leave the table where the microphones are located. We might actually overcome that by actually getting everybody to come to the table to start off with. Is that okay? Yes, okay. Members of the press and public are also permitted to record this meeting on the understanding that it neither disrupts the meeting nor records those stating explicitly that they do not wish to be recorded. Please can everyone use the microphones provided when they are speaking. Right, we'll make some introductions. I'm Councillor Staggs, as I said, and on my left.
I'm Councillor Bosher.
Wayne Layton, Finance Manager for Portsmouth City Council.
Kevin McKee, Parking Manager for Portsmouth City Council.
Paul Darlow, Traffic and Network Manager, Portsmouth City Council.
Nikki Musson, Transport Planning Team.
Felicity Tibbery, Transport Planning Manager at Portsmouth City Council.
Pam Toten, Assistant Director of Transport, Portsmouth City Council.
Joanne Wildsmith, Democratic Services.
Thank you. Are there any apologies? No, no apologies. Well done. Right, declarations of members' interests. Do I say anything here? Right. We are withdrawing one of the items in item 4. This is number 4, which is number.
It's HC, zone HC, where
HC, yes.
which is within the Baffins ward.
As there is a conflict of interest, I live within that area, but Pam or Felicity will explain all of that a bit later. Okay, the rest of it will go ahead as. Item number 4 is on the agenda, but the part that is relating to HC is being withdrawn from this agenda and will come to a different meeting chaired by the leader. Any comment, Councillor Bosher?
Well, I have, because the report is written as the report is written.
Yes.
It would have to, if you want to withdraw HC, you have to withdraw part of it. Then, in effect, it has to be a change to the recommendations. So you find yourself between a rock and a hard place, Councillor Stagg, in so much that you would have to make a recommendation to remove it based on your own personal interest, and I don't think you can do that.
I have absolutely no idea, so.
The issue was discussed with Michael Lawther, the City Solicitor, and he was recommending that this would be an appropriate way forward.
Sorry, Pam, the point that I'm making is that the report is the report. It's the recommendations that can be changed. So the recommendations are changed on the basis of the report you have in front of you. So you can change the order, you can withdraw, or you could do that, but it has to be part of a recommendation because the original report is in the public domain. Therefore, somebody has to make a decision to say, because if we just have a look at the recommendations under 4, you've got recommendation 1, progress on the previously approved residence parking programme is noted, and then 2, the fully revised residence programme is confirmed, commences in consultation on each of the areas listed in Appendix A. Appendix A is in the public domain and lists HC. So therefore you would have to have an amendment to recommendation 2 which excludes HC. That's the only way you can do it democratically, But you find yourself set between a rock and a hard place in the fact that with your declaration, you can't take that decision. Somebody else has to take that decision.
Can I pass that over to you, Pam, as Director or Assistant Director?
Yeah, as I say, that this was discussed with the City Solicitor, and this was the way that it was supposed to be progressed. I can go back and check with him, and we can rearrange the agenda item and take this one later and progress with the other agenda items.
It might well be worth having the City Solicitor here because, as I said before, the report is there, it carries that item, and the only way that you can exclude it, which I don't disagree with what you're saying, but the only way that you can do it within the structure is to have a recommendation that says remove item HC. With the best in the world, perhaps it should have been another one of your cabinet members that was sitting there taking this report in the first place, or alternatively, the other course of action you have is to completely pull this report and bring it back at a later date. The choice is yours, but it has to be a recommendation down that goes out into the public that you are removing HC. It can't just be done by tweaking the body of a report that's already there. Otherwise, we could sit here with reports in front of us and in full council and rewrite all the text to suit ourselves, and that isn't the way we do it. We take the text as the text is and we amend the recommendations to suit whatever the political motivations or alternative the will of the council committee, etc. are. You can't change the text of the report.
I take your point. We've done this on the advice of the City Solicitor. So, no. Have you managed to get hold of him, Joe?
Yeah, I'd put a phone call out to ask for him to come over. Thank you.
The alternative is to ask the leader.
The rest of the world, you have exactly the same scenario with regards to the leader. My apologies, because you are not taking HC on the fact that you live in the zone. One of the other proposed zones, which I can't think what it is, I think it's MF or something, is where the leader lives. So he would sit here and do exactly the same thing with regards to MF instead of HC. So you are where you are, Councillor.
Excuse me.
Yes, Councillor Chadwick.
Yes, I think if you like to drop only one part, I think you can do. My recommendation is which agenda item completely. You can deal on it later on if you wish to. This is my recommendation.
Is it possible to do that? Take out the whole of item 4 you're talking about?
Yeah.
We can certainly defer the item and bring it back to a later meeting. However, would it be possible to recommend that we wait for the City Solicitor to come to the meeting to advise, and then we could progress with the rest of the agenda and come back to that item, perhaps?
That sounds sensible to me. Councillor Bosher?
It certainly would be sensible to hear what the City Solicitor says, because in my opinion, and I'm not going to change my opinion, you have a simple choice. You either defer that particular report to another meeting where it can be heard by a member of the Cabinet who doesn't live in one of the zones, and that's probably the best course of action, or unless you can find a Cabinet member in the building who doesn't live in a zone that will come over and hear that one. But it might be worthwhile hearing what the City Solicitor has to say, even though I don't agree with the advice that's been given, because we actually have some people that have come to give deputations. You've also got to bear in mind that these people have come to give deputations based on the body of the report in front of them. You are now proposing to completely jig that report, and it will be unfair on those people giving deputations who may have come to give deputations on something within the body of the report to try and persuade you otherwise.
Yes, I take your point. Well, shall we just follow the agenda as it is and wait until the City Solicitor comes to deal with agenda item number 4?
Yeah, I can confirm he's on his way over.
Okay, is that all right with you, Councillor Bosher?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. In that case, we will go to item number 3, Station Street parking bays. And who's going to do that? Paul, thank you.
There was a problem at the start, but I believe it's been live streamed. The equipment.
It's the heat.
Yeah, it said it's live, so I don't know. It's being recorded. Yes, it's being recorded, but whether the pictures are going out, I can't confirm. It says both bits of equipment say that it's live, but
Is it live?
Paul?
Good afternoon, members of the public. So this item is regarding the parking bays that are in Station Street. Historically, there was a parallel parking bay in Station Street. Part of the development of number 8 Surrey Street, which is student accommodation. When the planning permission was given for that by the Planning Committee on the 20th of July 2016, there was a condition placed on that planning agreement that there would be echelon parking spaces put in there. A number of 6 was asked for. That work was then translated into, it was a Section 106 agreement was put in place, and there's now a Section 278 agreement to actually undertake those works. That regarded an amendment of traffic regulation order to change from parallel to echelon parking bays, and as part of that there was a consultation done between the 5th and the 29th of December 2017, of which there was an objection made to the echelon parking arrangement by the Portsmouth Cycle Forum. In essence, their objection was in terms of cars driving in and then reversing out blind across the cycle lane. On the basis of that objection, we have looked at the scheme again with the developer and actually changed the angle of the parking bays, the echelon parking. So they're now at 57 degrees from the curb line, and in addition, the centre reservation or the centre area of that road will be made, the hatch there will be made a solid line and given a red surface treatment to discourage people from driving in from the other direction. We've also proposed that we'll monitor the situation, and if people repeatedly did drive in frontwards into those parking bays, we could actually require the developer to build up the curb in the centre reservation to actually physically prevent people from doing that. This is part of the student travel and management plan, particularly for a couple of weekends of the year where students will be moving into that new block, and it's likely that as part of that plan a number of parents and students will want to use those bays for short-term unloading, so it will be used mainly for that. So it is recommended that that there's a TRO 1302017 is approved, which will change the existing parallel parking to echelon parking.
Thank you, Paul. There are no deputations about this, are there? Councillor Bosher.
Thank you, Councillor Stagg. I mean, this is one that came up and was deferred from a one report meeting because we had a few concerns. It sounds like Paul has fundamentally addressed those concerns that we actually had, and I think we were all pretty unanimous that there was a few issues with regards to this. But you have my support to make the decision in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury.
I go for recommendation.
Thank you. I do believe you did say that you were going to ask that the people who own the property to have some marshals there at the beginning of each term, or?
Yeah, indeed, that's correct. So part of the site becoming operational and that student intake plan, working with the parking service actually in terms of suspending the normal parking and allowing and then taking effectively those bays for that weekend and then operating a marshalling service to make sure that people unload and then move on to the surrounding parking areas that are available, which are further away, but they can, if they've unloaded their goods, property, etc., parents can then move to another parking area and keep that flow of students moving through those bays.
Is that all right with both of you? Lovely. Well, I'm happy to recommend that. Yes, accept the recommendation. Thank you. Mr. Lawther.
Chairman, understand there's a little bit of confusion over agenda item 4
Yes.
with regard to the revised residence parking programme and the update on it. Chairman, forgive me, not Chairman, Cabinet Member, as you are aware, you have, as this report is drafted, a potential conflict of interest with regard to Zone MF, where oh, forgive me, HC. I was going to delete the wrong one there. That wasn't going to be very helpful at all. HC, yeah, the leader is the other one. So, in the circumstances, the officers are withdrawing from the proposed residence parking zone, the new programme from 2018 onwards, reference to HC. At this time, it's proposed that a further report will be brought back at some time in the future which may deal with that particular parking zone, but the report is to be treated as present as if the reference to that particular parking zone has been deleted. That, my advice to you, putting on my hat as City Solicitor, means that you are able to deal with the report which is before you today.
Councillor Bosher is challenging that.
I have to say, Mr. Lawther, I completely disagree with that. This report has been written showing that is there. This strikes me as a means to politically to force through some of the others in an expedite way, removing something that Councillor Stagg has a declaration of interest in. Now, the body of the report is the body of the report. It has been there in the public domain. People have come along to give deputations based on the report that they had before them. Therefore, the only part of this that can actually be revised here are the recommendations, because that's within the gift of the Cabinet member or committee or whomever is making the decision to actually change the recommendations as they see fit. Now, you can't change the body of the report, as I pointed out before you were here. Otherwise, councillors could sit in the council chamber or anywhere else and rewrite reports before them to suit their own needs to actually come up with appropriate recommendations. Councillor Stagg is in that situation where she's actually complicit in making a decision to take HC away, which she has an interest in, which she's actually declared, and that is an inappropriate way to actually go forward with this. You either have because it's still a decision that's being taken and approved by Councillor Stagg in a public meeting, because that's what you're asking her to do, approve the removal of a scheme that she has a vested interest in a public decision-making meeting, and then shape the recommendations to suit the requirements. There you've got two choices here as I see it. You either have, which is the appropriate way of doing it, another Cabinet member who doesn't have an interest takes that report, which is the way it is traditionally done, or alternatively the report is taken off the agenda and comes back to a later traffic and transportation meeting when another Cabinet member who doesn't have a vested interest can actually consider that report in full. But you can't just sort of sit here in a public meeting and rewrite the report to suit their own ends, which is what you're asking us to do. And I would question whether what is actually being taken here is going to be subject to a call-in, because you aren't following proper procedures here by any stretch of the imagination. So in my view, you've got a choice. You either pull it, which we've got people come here to give deputations based on the report that was put into the public domain, which is the report that carries HC, have come along to do that. We have complete carnage in future if we have a situation where people come along to give deputations on any item that they see on an agenda, and and to arrive at the meeting to be told, oh, we're chopping and changing it all over the place for the benefit of the committee or the cabinet member to actually make a decision. And the bit that you may have come to give a deputation on is no longer to be considered because of a personal interest of the cabinet member. We either withdraw it or you find another cabinet member that's going to come and sit and take that report. Those are the choices that you have before you.
Well, I don't agree. It is quite possible for a report to be amended. It's not unusual, I'd suggest to members, that you will find this, of course, when a report's been presented to, for instance, a planning committee or a licensing committee. Alterations, amendments will be given to that particular meeting. This instance, the officers are not putting forward in the report HC, and therefore you are quite able to make your decision on the remainder of the report. What we are saying is that we will most probably be bringing back a report at a later date with someone who is not conflicted, so that a decision can be made in relation to HC. So for today, that has been withdrawn from the report by the officers.
Can I just ask, is there anybody making a deputation on HC? Right, would the deputies like to come to the table? But hang on, if we're not going, if we're pulling it, do we need the deputies here?
I think the question is, are there any deputations in relation to HC? Well, you can't hear those deputations today.
On the others?
You can hear the deputations of the others, but you can't hear a deputation on HC.
But I'm asking, are there any people here making deputations about HC? Because if there aren't, then it doesn't apply, surely.
With respect, Councillor Stagg and Mr Lawther, people could have come along here to give deputations on the report, residents parking programme. There are a number of things in there of which HC may well have been part of their deputation. It's not for us to tell people whether they can or cannot give deputations, because they're here to give deputations on the basis of what they had before them. And I come back to where I started from. They had
Can I just interrupt and say, I'm not telling anybody to give or not to give a deputation. I was asking if anybody is planning to give a deputation on HC, because if they're not, I think that sort of can take it out without any negative effects.
Yes, what I like to know is which is the item trying to drop and has been dropped. I like to know if there is any deputation in regards to this item. That's all. Thank you.
There are two deputation requests, Mr Brown, Mr Barfoot, but I don't know if they will be making reference to HC within those.
Mr Brown?
I don't actually mention HC, but the problem that I'm talking about includes the whole of the city, not just the area where I live. And you can't disassociate the displacement issue and say, well, yeah, I'm talking about HC. Well, you can't.
So we're going to... Sorry, can we just have a few minutes and come back? Yes?
Yep.
would you like me to explain what we're going to do?
Yes,
I understand
please.
it's your intention, because we don't want to disadvantage any members of the public who have come along today to make deputations to actually defer the item, and that a special meeting will be arranged where it could be properly considered. And it will be with a different cabinet member presiding over it. The reason we can't proceed today is that we have to actually appoint somebody separately, and we actually also have to find a cabinet member who wouldn't have any conflict at all with regard to any of the proposals which are within the report.
I did check, Mr. Warner, you have a choice of 3.
Yep.
I'll give you the names if you wish.
That's very helpful. Thank you very much indeed.
I apologise to the people who've come to do deputations, but we will get this set up as soon as possible. It never occurred to me, sort of reading through it, and it didn't occur to any of the transport staff either, so my apologies. So we will leave item number 3, 4, and move on to item, are we going to do number 6 next for Felicity? Right.
Okay, so item number 6. This report relates to the review of the JB Lamport Residence Parking Zone, which is the 11th parking zone to be reviewed in the city. This follows the T&T decision taken in 2015, whereby residents indicated which parking zones they would like to keep and which they would prefer to be removed in light of a charge being introduced for the first residence parking permit. The proposal notice is shown in Appendix A, which of your meeting papers is page 34, and the public response to the proposals is shown in Appendix B, which is pages 37 and 38 of your papers. The recommendations that we're putting forward today are that the free parking period within the residence parking bays is reduced from 2 hours to 1 hour, and that the parking zone's 24-hour operation is reduced to between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from councillors? No? In that case, I'm happy to accept the recommendations. Thank you. We now move on to item number 5, yes? Magdalene Road. And is that you, Pam?
It is, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so this report recommends the approval of improvements to Magdalen Road as detailed in Appendix 3, that's page 28 of your packs. Concerns were raised by councillors regarding the width of the road, which is currently over 20 metres, meaning that it's difficult for pedestrians to cross the street safely. The scheme proposes pavement widening to reduce the width of the road, enabling improved visibility for pedestrians and to reduce the speed of traffic. 2 parking spaces on the southern side of the road will be removed and replaced by 2 new parking spaces on the northern side. In addition to the statutory TRO consultation, all affected residents received a letter regarding the scheme. 6 responses were received in total, 4 in support and 2 in opposition, the full details of which are included at Appendix 2. The scheme is designed to improve road safety, specifically for our most vulnerable residents, and therefore approval is recommended for this TRO.
Any comments or questions? No? In that case, I'm happy to. Sorry, Kevin, you're going to introduce this, I believe.
Thank you. This report presents details of the free trial we've been offered for a smart city parking system to help drivers find space more effectively. The trial is offered by Appy Parking, working with Visa, who are funding it. They have offered us a 2-year trial, and as part of that, they will provide and install all the equipment and maintain and run it for 2 years. The cost is estimated to be around 300,000. The technology works and has been implemented on the smaller scales in other places. Finding parking space quickly reduces congestion and pollution and will also improve people's experience of visiting Portsmouth. If agreed, the trial will be applied to all on-street pay and display parking spaces. The system also includes a unique payment method so that when somebody's using the app and they park, they just need to click on the app and it will start charging them for the parking. And then when they drive away, the system will automatically stop charging them and they can be sent an email or a text to confirm the length of their parking transaction. To support this, the report recommends changing the way we charge an on-street pay and display to charging by the minute, which will require a change to our traffic regulation order. Charging by the minute will mean a very fair way of charging people for the parking, so they'll only pay for the exact time that they park. The system's linked to the enforcement officer's handheld, so an enforcement officer patrolling the city will be able to see whether somebody's paid in a very similar way to the way they do with pay by phone. And in addition to the app and the benefits to the members of the public, the system will provide us, the council, with very clear information about the way in which on-street pay and display parking bays are used, which can help in all sorts of planning decisions about parking going forward. The trial is for 2 years, and during that period we need to assess whether we want to go forward with it, and if we do, we will need to tender for a longer service. The trial provides us with an opportunity to assess the new technology without financial outlay, an opportunity to look at reducing congestion, make better use of the parking space we have, offer payment by the minute, and obtain very good information about our parking bays. Therefore recommend we take up the trial. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I've got a few questions. One is, at the end of the 2-year trial, will we have to pay back the £300,000?
No. The equipment becomes ours.
Right, and then how much do we have to pay then to continue, if you want to continue with it?
If we were to continue with the API parking system, it would be a matter of subjecting it to tender. The approximate estimated cost at this stage would be around £50,000 a year.
And would that be offset by profit we would be making from the parking charges? I mean, would it be almost cost neutral?
We can establish that during the trial. That's the beauty of the trial, is the trial's no financial risk to us. So we can see what the effects of the system is on the financial position and on reducing congestion.
And will we have complete access to the data that is being collected? Because one thing that concerns me is that, yes, we can have the data, but we have to ask API Parking for it. Surely it's our data. Cannot we have it ourselves just automatically?
We will have full access to the data during the trial. We would only be able to get the data because of the trial. If we don't go ahead with the trial, we won't have the data. But during the trial, we will have full access to the data.
To be able to access this at all times?
Yes, and in fact, the API Parking will provide a digital dashboard which will display it in a very user-friendly way.
And how useful would that data be? What could it be used for?
It can be used for all sorts of decisions about, for example, if you're looking at putting a cycle lane in and you've got pay and display parking bays, you can not only see exactly how those pay and display bays are used, but how the ones nearby it are used, so you can work out the exact effect of changing the road network in any way regarding the parking in that area.
Thank you. Councillor Bosher.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stagg. I don't fundamentally disagree with what we're talking about here, but it does sort of prompt probably more questions than answers in my view. Because the sensors are there in the first instance primarily to advise people who've got the app, Kevin, sorry, who've got the app where there are available spaces. That's the driver to start with. But you can also pay via that as well. Now, but you've still got the option. So if I wanted to pull over and run into a shop and get a paper and run out again, I've still got that sort of option to be fleet-footed, so to speak, to get a paper and wouldn't start being charged by the minute, would I?
No, you've got complete choice of which method of payment you use. So the existing methods of payment will run alongside it.
My concern going forward, okay, that's fine. So there's a choice at this moment in time where we've got it or where we haven't. My concern going forward, and this is probably a question for a couple of years in the future as opposed to now, is that it's £300,000 worth of cost, and you've said £50,000 per annum to actually keep going with this. So therefore that £50,000 has got to be paid therefore out of parking fees. So we'll be looking to actually potentially move towards this system as opposed to the old-fashioned meter and ticket and how we work with that. Which prompts a number of questions going forward as to, we're talking about zero financial risk to the City Council. What about the financial risk to people who park there being charged by the minute, disabled people with blue badges and things like that, who it's still a vehicle parking in a space as far as they're concerned, and those sorts of issues actually coming forward on that basis. But I appreciate I'm probably asking questions that will come out during the trial as much as anything else.
Yeah, I see envisage no change to the blue badge bay situation where somebody with a blue badge can still park in the pay and display bays and wouldn't have to use the app. The app is offered as an additional method of payment. I don't know what the situation was in Portsmouth, but in Guildford, where I worked before, when we introduced pay by phone, it actually increased the use of the parking bays because it was a more convenient way of paying. And
I appreciate what you're saying, but if for the sake of argument, we take the seafront, where people can do pay and display along the seafront at this moment in time, between certain hours and whatever. If we were to start putting these sensors in every echelon parking space along the seafront going forward, because if we're shelling out a lot of money for this, we're going to want to maximise our return on this. Are we going to be moving to a situation where this style of payment for parking is going to replace on-street meters? Because that's where I can see a problem arising.
The 2-year trial is totally free to us in terms of the equipment, so we're not putting forward any money in it. And I think those decisions, as you said, could be made during the trial. I wouldn't be intending to recommend taking out the parking meters or changing the other methods of payment.
I think it's something better kept a close eye on during the trial, I think, as much as anything else, which I guess is what you guys are going to be doing anyway.
Councillor Chowdhury.
I'd just like to recommend, I have no question, but so far I understand 300,000 hardware is investing £300,000, and this money should be come from the public. And we got system in the place. We just trying to replace some people that don't have, some drivers especially, they don't have smartphone with them. And this going to be on the base of the trial, that we are going to lose or we going to recover by the public money. So I completely not agree with this system. That's all.
Sorry, could I just clarify? I might have misled the committee. There's no the £300,000 is the value of the equipment that will be supplied to us free by Appy Parking and Visa. There's no financial outlay for this trial for the City Council. It's an opportunity for us to trial the app without the financial outlay that would normally be associated with putting in that system.
I just like to, there is nothing in this world are free. There is some others. I have no deep background on that system. There is something else there. There is not supplying this equipment to background. There is something maybe come future. There's just supplying this item. Once we are accommodated with that, maybe something else coming through. And they said, yes, we like to apply. We give the free of charge for this timing or term. And I I feel we need to see all the term and condition, what base they are supplying this equipment to us. That's all.
So, the Appy Parking will be getting, as it's stated in the report, 30p per transaction that's done using the app. And that's very similar to the way pay by phone works. So currently, if you pay by phone in a metered parking bay, you pay the City Council the parking charge, and then you pay an additional 20p to the company that supplies the pay by phone app. With this system, it will work very similarly in that anybody parking in a bay will pay the City Council the parking charge, so we'll get the full parking charge, and 30p, an additional 30p will be charged, which will go to the Appy Parking, the supplier.
I understand now. This either way they have got a contract with the apps. Whoever are using app with their system, they're getting money from there. So one way others, public going to pay this. And I like to know what benefit we are going to supply to the public, whoever in this city and whoever coming from this world to travel our city. So end of the day, all are the public, and I am as well public. So I like to know what benefit getting by the public by this system, and either with this system, we get any problem and we cannot survive, so or we can, what benefit we are getting, and I think completely I am not agree. That's all I recommend.
The benefit of the system is, particularly when there are big events in the city, it's quite difficult to find parking space. So rather than driving around looking for a parking space, the app will tell you where the parking spaces are, so you can go to them much more quickly than you would do otherwise. So it improves the driver's experience, and it also reduces congestion on the roads caused by people looking around for parking spaces when the city's busy.
This for test, and this is for the test. Might be those people they benefit, but there is no guarantee. And we are going to put the hand on it, which is investing and trying to put the money on the public. I am not agree on that. Thank you.
Any other comments, Councillor Bosher? No. From my point of view, the two things that have come out of this, and that is, I think, cutting down on the amount of idling or going around looking for a parking space. So you're putting emissions into the atmosphere, and we've already got an air quality problem. And just from a personal point of view, as a shopper, if I'm only going for half an hour, at the moment I've got to pay for an hour's worth of parking. If I'm paying by the minute, I've only got to pay for that shorter amount of time. Plus, I don't have to worry about getting back to my car if I get carried away with the shopping. And I'm sure this applies to a lot of women. Oh, all right, okay. I won't be sexist, but I think women tend to be worse at this. Can I ask, though, that if I say yes, I'm happy with this, we go ahead, that we can have regular updates to see how the system is going? I don't know, perhaps every 6 months? Would that seem okay in a 2-year period?
There may well be, jumping on the hoop, it may well be something that can be regular report through maybe
Could you?
Sorry, it may be something that the Tech Scrutiny Committee or Governance and Audit or something like that could actually hear on a regular basis, because it'll go through there as a noting report, so it won't be a decision report, just as an update, as well as yourself, that is.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there are going to be plenty of interested parties, genuinely positively interested parties in the council in a scheme like this.
Yes, so if we can have regular updates, both to this committee, but also to, as Councillor Bosher says, to TEX or Governance and Audit, which better. TEX tends to be on one particular issue, doesn't it? What do you reckon, Joe? Yeah, I think that's probably better. Report, yeah. It just has to be
There are regular meetings of the governance audit and standards, and obviously the techs have got their own programme that they look at.
So is that all right?
Yes, by all means.
Is that the end of the meeting? And I do apologise for the hold-up and confusion, etc. Thank you.